Hello everyone, welcome to Oracle Fusion HCM training sessions. So we were discussing about the absence management, and today I have something important to share with you all. That is, during the implementation, before we start with the implementation, the one of the phase or the initial phase of implementation is to explore the ideas. So here, in the absence management implementation, as a functional person mainly, you have to get the details about the absence management, like the current absence management. What is all the things that we should be checking with our clients to get all the details jotted so that we can get it started. So what is all those information that we have to check with the customer is something that we are going to discuss today one by one. Okay, the first most important thing that we generally check with them, or that is something that they would only share, is what is their current absence system? What is the current HR system that they are using, so that we would know, like, what is all their expectations. So they are moving into a cloud system now. So what is their expectations? So what is that they have it in the current management system, and what is that they are expecting in the uh, cloud system since they are moving into cloud? And the second thing that we need to check about them is work timings. So what is the work timings that they follow? Is it something that they have strict work schedule, like uh, start and end time? We have discussed about the work schedules, right? We have something called as time work schedules, where the start and end time are all fixed. So are they following such patterns, such shifts, or is it something flexible? What is the work timings, and what are the work schedules that they have it in the system? That we need to get a list of it. So we have already taken a look at the work schedule, work shifts, and work pattern, how to create them. So these are all the items which we have to check with them and ask all the list of work schedules that they have. The next thing is, so for which all legislation is that company huge? Are they implementing this cloud for multiple legislation, or is it only for one legislation? If it is one legislation, does this one legislation have a different legal entities? And the absence that I'm going to implement, is it all same for different legislation? If they have different legislation, if they have different legal entities, is the rules all same for different legal entities? Those are the questions that we need to check with them at the earlier stage. Next thing is about the person type and absences. So what is the different type of person types that they have it in the system? Like we have employees, non-worker, pending worker, contractors, right? So pending worker, it's out of our scope. How about the contractors and employees? Are they, which all person types can actually record the absences? Under employees, we have fixed term, part-time employees, full-time employees, casual employees. So there we have different types of employees that they are expecting, and which is also already configured in core HR, or it is part of configurations. So in this kind of different persons, who all are eligible to record the absence? Is it only a full-time regular salaried employees? So these are the questions that we have to put forward uh, in terms of persons who could record the absences. Next most important thing is along with absence, are they also making use of the payroll in the cloud, or is it something that they are using it from the third party? If they have payroll, are absence information flowing into the payroll? What all information flows into payroll? Is it only the unpaid leave types that those details that flows into payroll, so that the deductions can be done on the payroll? So these are the details that we ask in terms of payroll. So we know if they integrate like if they have the payroll system also in the cloud, then we use element and then use it under absence plan. So if we have to integrate Oracle payroll with the absence, then it is must that we make use of absence plan. So next thing after payroll that or not just after payroll, like the next most important thing that we have to check with our client is what are all the different types of absence that they have configured in the current system. So they'll have to provide the list of these plans along with their details so that the same can be configured. So it's important that we ask all these leave types and get a clarification on these leave types to get it started. And once we have all the leave types, like we have different types of absences in Oracle Cloud, like accrual type, qualification type, no entitlement, agreement, donations. So these are all the types that we have it in the cloud. So what is all that they have it in their own system, and how these absence types can be configured in the Oracle Cloud is something that you have to think. Like of the first, are they accruing all the absences? So if that is the case, this comes under accrual type. What are all the different types of accrual leave they have? It is something that we have to check with them about the leave types. The next thing is unit of leave type. The unit of leave type, what I meant here is the unit of measures. We know about the unit of measures. So how are they trying to measure the, like, how are they measuring their absences? Is it in terms of hours? Is it in terms of days? And is this unit of measure that we calculate, is it same for all the leave type or is it different? And how are these absence balances actually maintained? So we maintain these balances of accrual, right? So how is that need to be maintained, and how while recording the absences, is it in terms of days that we record, or is it in terms of hours that we allow the employees to record their absences? That or also what is that they have it in the current system, and what are they expecting in the going forward? Next thing is the repeating time frequency. So when it comes to repeating time frequency, we all know why is this repeating time frequency configured. So this be made used under absence plans for the accrual types. Uh, so it is to understand in what like what is the time time frame of accruals getting accumulated. So how is this time repeating time frequency available in the current legacy system? If they have a weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, whatever it is, how is that how is that same can be configured, or it can be if we are making any modifications in that, how is that we convince them to say that this can be made use so that it would be a better usage? Or if they don't provide you a repeating time frequency, this is something that we understand from the work schedules that they have shared and configure it ourselves and then share the details like how it is going to work, how the accrual is going to work or accumulates based on the repeating time frequency we have defined. This is also one important thing that we need to check while we are getting the details from the customers. So next thing is to the fields to be made available in the absence entry page. So what are all the fields that we could actually have it in the page of different absence type? Like when they select, when an employee select, for example, vacation leave type, what is all the fields that they should have? Like absence start date, absence end date. Should there be a reason? Should there be an attachment? So these are all the things that we need to check against each leave type so that they will know, like they would be clear enough to understand that when employees tries to record any absences, these are the ones that would be made available. And also not just that, if managers tries to, I mean, are managers allowed to enter absences in behalf of the employees? If that is allowed, what are the fields that should be made available to the managers? And how about the admins? These are all the questions that we need to check in terms of configuring the UI. I mean, how the UI should look for the employees to record their absences. Now, we saw like how a manager enter absences. Like, are they should they be allowed to enter absences, which we saw it. And when manager or employee submit the absences, how does the approval process work? Is it something that gets auto approved every time and only the record would be available, or should this go through an approval workflow? If that is the case, how does this work? When manager requests for absences, does that it gets auto approved every time, or is it also something that goes to an approval to HR or the payroll representative? Is there a multiple level of approvals that is required, or to the indirect manager? Should we include indirect manager as well, or is there a concept of indirect manager? If there is, are indirect managers allowed to enter the absences on employees, which is having an indirect manager allowing the employees to having indirect manager enter absences for employees, it doesn't happen. But are they also part of approval process? Um and if in case the manager approves the request when employee submits, and when in this case, can employee withdraw after approval? Is there a chances? Or let's say a manager rejects the approval request sent by an employee, and in that case, can the employee make use of the same request and then resubmit this, or is it something like employee have to open a new request? So these are the ones that we have to be we need to be aware of this. And the approval process, it is also like when manager submits a request for employee, does employee get notified with like saying that your manager has submitted the request? And what is all the status that would be made available in terms of absence records? These are all the things also something that we have to make sure to ask our clients during the exploring phase. So next up is absence cycle period. For different types of absence leave that they provide, what is the absence cycle? Is it like anniversary year they wanted to maintain, or is it something like calendar year from 1st Jan to the 31st December? How have they maintained in the current system, and how do they expect to maintain in the future system? And also, the next important thing that we need to ask is about the accrual leave types. This is something which is very important, and we have to get clear information about the accrual, different types of accrual types they have. And also, there are some questions like absence balances. Is absence balances accrued for different types of employees? Are they all same? Or does this changes based on different types for different employees? And the next thing is about the length of service. Does accrual leave balances change with the length of service? Like, does this depend on the length of service? For example, there would be a requirement saying that for employees who have less than 5 years of experience, they have a different they have different benefits. After 5 years, they have a different benefits. So these are the questions. And then we have what is called as negative balance. So the accrual leave type that we have, no different types of accrual. Does this accrual leave type allow the negative balances? And is there a carryover limit at the end of the year? Do we actually allow employees to carry over some of the leave balances? And in the carryover process, does manager involves to encash some balance and carry forward the rest? So there is an option where we can encash some of the absences during the end of the absence cycle period that we were saying. So like beat calendar year. So during that period, so it's how we have configured. So they can either encash all the leave balances, or some leave balances can be encashed and carry forward the rest, or they expect us to lapse all the leave balances and then fresh startly in the next calendar year. So it depends on their requirement. And also, is there a maximum accrual limit that they have. Like this is the accrual limit that a person can have for this vacation type. Like it is around 20. So if a person has accrued more than 20, be it at the end of the year, I mean, he should not be allowed to get accrual after 20. And is there a list of absence reasons to be made available? You will have to ask them if there is any. You will have to ask them to provide the list. And also attachment. When it comes to attachment for any leave types, uh, should we make them? I mean, this would be made available for all leave types if needed. I mean, based on what are all the fields that is available. If there is any, should attachments be made mandatory, or should this be made mandatory based on the number of days the absence is recorded? That also matters. And not just that, we have something called as like employee joins in the middle of the year, or he leaves in the middle of the year. So we need to calculate something called as pro ratio. So we have to check about this pro ratio. How does this accrual happens when an employee joins in the middle of the year? So the pro ratio rule for the employees joining or leaving in the middle of the year is also important, that we check and get a clear information about the figure. And next thing is about the vesting period. So the accrual balances that a person has, uh, like the person accumulates, but does this gets held up for any number of time, like for any number of months or year? So this is called as vesting period in the cloud system. So we need to also check if there is such period, waiting period, vesting period, or should we let an employee who completes after 6 months to accumulate the accruals. This is also something that's important that we check with them before we get started. And also, what happens at the end of the service of the accrual balance is this the calculations of final disbursement. So the calculation of final disbursement and accrual pay, is it all same or is it different? After the resignation and termination, what happens with this all accrual leave accumulations? And how about the eligibility criteria? So the eligibility profile that we know. So how does this there in the system? What are all the eligibility criteria for different types of leaves that they have? So this is also important. And what happens if an employee loses his eligibility? Like let's say, how does this accumulation calculates their balance? Like let's say employee is like we have configured in such a way that employee who belongs to this job has this absence balance, like accrual type. And when the employee moves from this job or department or legal entity, when he just jumps to a different legislation altogether, then how is this how are we supposed to do what are we supposed to do with this accumulated balances? Are this something that gets also transferred, or is it something that should be lapsed, or is it something that we have to encash? This is also important that we check. Next is the absence entry validation. So in case of absence entry validation, what happens is, like I'll give you an example. Birthday leave. When employee birthday leave that the company provides is only 1 day for 1 year. And if employee tries to accumulate or enter more than 1 day, then a system has to throw a message saying that you are not allowed to, or error in fact, you're not allowed to uh, enter more than 1 day of validation for this leave type. So those are the absence entry validation. So we should actually uh, see how absence entry rules can be imposed during the absence request, and how are they expecting it for the different leave types. That is also important to check. And the next thing is about the adjusting balances. Adjust balances, like who should be allowed to adjust the balances. So it's like adjusting balances, we all know, like we would be allowed to adjust the balances that is there. So we can add or remove the balances. So who should be given authority to adjust this balance? Is it manager, or is it admin, or is it both? And what are all the reasons that should be made available to when they are trying to adjust balances? So these we have some default options. Do they need some additional options along with the default delivered options drop down during the adjust process, or do they need something else? And data load. So the data load is like what all should be loaded. So now they have the current system. If they provide us the details about what all should be loaded in the system that they're moving, like cloud. So that those are all the details. Okay, is there any history records that needs to go into the cloud, or is it something that they would like to start from fresh? So this is also something. And if there is a data load, what is the template that you would require to load the data? This is something that you should have, and you have to share it with them so that they could clearly provide you those details in terms of the template that you have shared, and that can be loaded into the Oracle. And next is public holidays. So, it's also important that we check about the public holidays to be configured along with the work schedules that we check. So also to check if employees are allowed to record absences on public holidays, or is it restricted that they should not, I mean, the system should not let them to record absences on the public holidays or on the weekends. So these are the questions that, I mean, these are the basic thing that we should be checking. Along with it, it depends on how they are also expecting and how it is configured. So all these things are the very basic ones. So it goes in deep, and the discovery session itself, it goes depending on the project size, it goes on for some time to understand the clear I mean, to get the clear image of what is there and what is needed. So I have tried to consolidate some of the few basic questions that we will need to check with our clients, but these are not the only ones. This session was to make you, or to help you understand how the implementation cycle goes, and as a functional person, what is all the important things to check in terms of absence management. Hope this helps. I'll come back with the next interesting session on the absence management. Until then, also, if you have any questions, you can drop it on the comment box. Uh, we'll meet you in the next sessions. Bye.